Hey everyone, welcome to another installment of Harry Potter Theory. Today we'll be discussing why in Merlin's beard, Snape would have given the Sword of Gryffindor to one of Voldemort's most devoted Death Eaters, Bellatrix Lestrange. Now, the question here arises since, in the end, Professor Severus Snape turned out to be, for lack of a better term, a good guy. This means that in looking back on the series, there are certain instances that don't seem to quite add up. I mean, they certainly did at the time, so long as you believed that Snape was an evil Death Eater, but upon discovering that his true allegiance was to Professor Dumbledore, the Order of the Phoenix, and Harry himself, you begin to wonder why he did some of the things he did. And one of those things is why he would have given the Sword of Gryffindor, the weapon he knew was bequeathed to Harry in Dumbledore's will that could destroy Voldemort's Horcruxes, to Bellatrix Lestrange. As it turns out, the answer to this question is quite simple. He didn't. Severus never actually gave Bellatrix the real sword. Rather, he handed over a remarkably good fake version in its place, presumably hiding the real sword and eventually giving it to Harry, Ron, and Hermione in that icy lake out in the woods. But why give it to her in the first place? Why did he need to move the fake? Well, as it turns out, Ginny Weasley, Neville Longbottom, and Luna Lovegood had tried to steal it from the headmaster's office, likely in some attempt to protect themselves from the Death Eaters posing as professors at Hogwarts. I would assume that Snape, who was acting headmaster of Hogwarts at the time, was then commanded by Voldemort or pressured by other Death Eaters to move the sword to a safer location. Perhaps the Dark Lord even named Gringotts or Bellatrix's vault by name, who knows. But as Severus is walking the incredibly tight line of double agent, it's no surprise that he would have agreed. Why draw attention to yourself over a sword you know to be a fake? And he did know it was a fake. Since Snape was allied with Dumbledore, he was aware that the former headmaster had made a replica of the Sword of Gryffindor to display in the headmaster's office at Hogwarts. Albus would have likely done this knowing that it would be taken away and not given to Harry at the time of his death. So, at this time, Snape would have agreed to have what everyone else believed to be the real Gryffindor sword moved from Hogwarts to Gringotts, but only because he knew that he was sending a fake. Of course, as the Sword of Gryffindor was made of goblin-forged steel, it's said that the Gringotts goblins all recognized the sword deposited in Bellatrix's vault as a forgery. This is indeed verified by a former Gringotts employee who Harry, Ron, and Hermione encounter in the forest while in search of Horcruxes. Here, the goblin confirms that the sword which was placed into Bellatrix's vault at the Wizarding Bank was a fake, and that none of the Gringotts goblins reported this to Snape, presumably due to their dislike of him, the Death Eaters, and Voldemort, as well as their general disdain for witches and wizards owning goblin-made treasures, like the Sword of Gryffindor. So the answer as to why Snape gave Bellatrix Lestrange the Sword of Gryffindor is that he in fact did not give it to her at all. And with that, we've come to the end of today's video. What did you think? Do you agree with my explanation? Please share your thoughts in the comments below, and as always, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like it and subscribe to the channel. Until next time, remember, it does not do to dwell on dreams and forget to live.